Good evening and welcome to Bad Dog Comedy TV. You're watching Stand Up Basics Student Showcase with your instructor and your host, Tamara Shevon. Now give it up for Tamara Shevon.
Oh my God, hi everybody. Welcome to the Bad Dog Student Showcase, Stand Up One. We have the best comics coming out of my class, obviously, because obviously I have the best people in my class. But you guys are in for a treat. Obviously, you know where to come. My class, that's what's coming out in September. But okay, so here we go. We have 7 amazing comedians gracing the show today. I am in a very rainy storm, and it's very fitting for my chaotic nature. I am obviously a black woman. You can tell because my hair is braided, right? But it is pink to show that I fuck the whites. Okay, so that's how you know. That's how you know. I don't know if you can tell by my voice or my hair, but I am dating a white man. No cheers needed. No cheers needed. Because you got it. He's not the kind of white that you think he is. He is a struggle white. A struggle white. Have you heard of those? He's a white man with struggle, which is very hard. I didn't know that was possible. But he is from Mississauga, which gives away a lot. But his family is from Croatia. Croatia, yeah. I don't know if you know a lot about Croatians. I didn't even know that you guys made them in that. But cute, right? Really cute. I asked him a lot about his family. I'm like, tell me about your family. He's like, they're from a strong and noble town. And then I looked that up in the dictionary and it just translated to they're broke as fuck, run. So should be a good future. Really into it. But I was like, okay, tell me the name of the town your parents are from. Like, tell me what the name is of the place your parents are from. He's like, this is super easy. I got this. They're from a place called Hersheyshire. And I was like, I think you misspoke. Say it again, And then he said, Hersheyshire. He slowed it down for me. Like those were words. And I don't know how to explain this to you all other than like, have you ever played Scrabble and it's like your first round and you look down and you're like, fuck, I have no vowels, right? That's the town. That's the town. It's more of a reading and writing town. We don't speak it. You know what I mean? But it's nice though. It's nice hanging out with him. I like hanging out with my boyfriend. I just hate that he likes to do a lot of stuff that I hate. Like, you guys ever feel like you're in a relationship and you're like, maybe we should get into a throuple? Like, maybe we should have another person in the relationship that does all the shit that I hate with you, right? I feel like that's a shining relationship. I've already planned her out. I've already planned out who this woman is. She's 5'2". She's like short. She's brown hair, bangs. Her name's Melissa, and she loves the outdoors. Okay, she loves the outdoors, right? Because then she gets to do like really fun things like eat outside, right? I don't know. I don't know why white people do this to black people. White people do this thing where they're like, "Oh my gosh, we finished the steaks. Should we take it outside?" And I'm like, "No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't." Because that's why they built the kitchen. It's to eat in. You have to open like 3 doors, a screen door to get outside. Like, that's white culture. Okay. And then white people are the first people that bring like pasta salads and like potato salads to your cookouts. And I'm like, ooh, save that shit for your clan meetings. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want potatoes with raisins ever. Very crazy. Very crazy. But it's nice though. It's nice. He introduced me to this really cute thing that made me realize that we were both equally broke. Like, we're in an equal relationship. Like, me and my boyfriend, we are in an equal relationship. Like, we don't know which one of us is settling yet, right? So very equal. I keep being like, you fucked it up. And he's like, you fucked it up. And like, we just go to bed holding each other's hands, being like, why do we have the same credit score? Really fun time. Really good time. But he introduced something to me that was really crazy. his birthday was coming up. He's like, my birthday's coming up. I got something really nice planned for us. You're going to love it. We're going to go camping. And I was like, Melissa, you know what I mean? Get in here. This guy's trying to convert me to the whites. You know? It was nice though, because I was like, oh, I'm not going to go camping. He's like, no, just send me $100. And then that covers everything for the camp weekend. And I was like, oh, $100? You got me fucked up. You know what I mean? Because there's no black woman that's ever going to pay any white man $100 to pretend to be homeless. You know? I'm like, I don't know if you've read our history, babe, but like, we don't sleep outside no more. Like, you know, fun times, really fun times. But it is crazy. That's not the only reason I want to break up with him. I do want to break up with him, but it's just because he's really pushy. Like, he really wants kids right now. Like really wants kids, won't stop talking about it. He's like, oh my God, our kids would be so cute doing this. Oh, our kids could read this book. Oh my God, our kids would like grow up in this neighborhood. So I've been swallowing all year, you know? Because I do want to know what they taste like first. You know? I am, after all, a foodie, bitch. Are you guys ready to get this show started? I want to see a bunch of exclamation marks in the chat. Exclamation marks everywhere. So we're going to be doing this. You're going to see some of the talent from this class. Super excited for you all to see how hard they've worked. Make sure that you show them a lot of love. Comment on their sets. Give them exclamation marks when you love it. And I'm super excited for you to see the Stand Up One Showcase. First, coming up to the stage, give it up to the very talented Sarah, everyone!
Woo! Hello, everybody. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you. My name's Sarah. Any millennials out there in the crowd? Great name. My favorite part about being a millennial that's in debt and still attached to her parents' phone bill is when Rogers calls to harass me about promotions, he always asks, or he always thinks I'm my dad. So he's always talking to me like I'm Nesco. And then halfway through the convo, I say, oh, sorry, I'm not Nesco. That's my dad. And then they go, okay, can I talk to your dad? And I get to say, ooh, that's kind of hard because he died 6 years ago. And it's always a bit awkward for them, but I love it. He's my dead dad. I can joke about it. He can't. My dad died when I was 23, and at the time, I didn't believe in therapy. So, like any normal person, I went to a psychic medium, and she told me that I had 5 spirit guides. Okay, 5 times the protection. I'm thinking, this is sweet. This is awesome. I'm packing spiritual heat, right? No. The psychic told me basically, this is why you're probably very indecisive because you don't know which path to take because your spirit guides can't always agree with each other. There's too many. Like, lady, why did I just pay you $150 for you to tell me all this other bullshit and give me more anxiety? I'm like, are they just sitting there around a TV yelling at each other? The TV is just the movie of my life. They're all spying on my mood levels. They're thinking like, what's she gonna do next? Like, how should we guide her? No, I don't even think they ask each other that. They just yell. At one point, one of them just say like, you know, fuck guiding her. Let's just like bet, and that's how we'll decide. Yeah, we're just gonna bet. And then they came up with their own pro-line betting spreadsheet. It's just my life, and then it's just like certain life events that are numbered. You know, the sports teams are actually just all of my exes. You got the drug addict, the one that cheated on me with a friend, the one that was actually good for me. And then they're outlining all the outcomes. Will she go back to the cheater? Will she pick the good guy? Or will she stay single for longer than 5 minutes? Yeah. If there's 5 spirit guides, then like it checks out that one has to be evil, right? You know, but there's got to be a shit disturber that likes to just fuck with me. Yeah, I picture him just being like a very jaded 13-year-old sitting in the corner. He's got an underbite, very comfortable face. You know, he's just mad that he became a spirit guide a little too early. He wishes he was still on the playground, fucking with all the other kids. So he's got to get his, and he's got to prank me. Yeah, I think a punchable face would be named Cody. I don't know why, but it matches. Yeah, I think Cody still likes to fuck with me. Cody's probably the reason for all of my anxiety my whole life and paranoia. Not because I grew up with an alcoholic father. That doesn't make sense. It's this random spirit guide. Yeah, I feel like Cody is the reason I manifested my robbery. I've never lived in a house before. Ever since we immigrated here from Serbia, we lived on the 3rd floor of an apartment, and I was always comfortable. I wasn't on the ground. I didn't have to think about getting robbed. And finally, at the start of the pandemic, I moved out into a semi-detached home on the bottom floor with a random girl off Craigslist. And no one told me that the semi-detached houses, you can hear everything all the time. It's as if someone's always in your house. Yeah, so I'm freaking out. I'm thinking someone's trying to rob me. Every single noise, nook and cranny, I'm freaking out. I confide in the one friend that tells me, you should probably just stop thinking about it because it could come true. Manifest. Yeah, so I bought another session with a psychic, but she was a tarot reader this time. It's different. And I went, and she does all her weird shit. She feels my hands for a second to feel my energy, whatever. She puts the card down, flips it over. She looks at it, looks at me, these big creepy eyes. Then she says, "You can't stop this. It's already happening." I look down, and it's the Tower card. For those of you that don't know, the Tower card literally looks like people jumping out of a tower to their suicide because there's a crazy storm going on. I'm like, well, great, lady. What am I supposed to do? I can't stop this from happening. What do you recommend? So she pitched me all her white candles, and I bought them all. I went home and lit every candle to try and sleep. But of course, I'm on Google and I'm hyper Googling the Tower card to find some kind of positive meaning out of all this. I can't. I end up on Wiki Tarot. And of course, I come across in italics, robbery, a key word of the tarot card. Meanwhile, it's actually just Cody up there. He got 1 hour computer time and he's like, I'm going to fucking make this website. It's going to be called Wiki Tarot. And I'm going to put robbery in there. So then, to help me sleep, what do? I go back into the weed. And it's always a slippery slope with me because one puff too many and all of a sudden I think I'm being hunted in the woods by someone with a red cloak and spikes on the back like I'm in the fucking village. So yeah, me and we don't always agree. But anyways, so I get high. I meet up with a friend I hadn't seen in a couple years. She shows up with a beautiful arrangement of snacks. I show up with the munchies and I'm eating through half of them. All of a sudden I'm sitting like this and I'm having the best time. Finally, I'm gonna have a good night's rest because my eyes are half closed at this hangout. My friend looks at me and she's like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm fine. I'm great. She looks down at all the snacks, picks up the chocolate bar, tells me it's an edible, looks at it, looks up at me like the psychic took over her body. And all I'm thinking is, oh my God, it's happening and I can't stop this. All of a sudden I'm looking around. I think my ex is 5 feet away from me. I'm like, oh no, was that on the spreadsheet? Was that on the pro line? Did Cody plant my ex over there? I get up, I'm running home. My thoughts are all in caps lock, like it's the 1929 Wall Street stock market crash. I get home. My roommate isn't there, obviously. And, I'm like, this is it. Nobody's going to be around to watch me get murdered. I can't text her. I just met her off Craigslist. I can't be like, listen, I know this sounds a bit weird, but I saw on Wiki Tarot that the Tower card means I'm going to get robbed and maybe murdered. Can you please come home now? So, you know, I took every single sharp object knife that we owned in the apartment and I hid them under my bed. And then I took a hammer from the toolbox, went into my bed, went in the covers, still had the munchies, got up, got some Cheetos, and then I'm waiting there. I'm crunching, I'm clutching. All of a sudden, I hear the door open. I'm like, holy fuck. It's happening. It's already happening. I can't stop this. I hear someone come in. They're rustling through the dishes. They're opening the fridge. I'm like, maybe my roommate's hungry. Maybe her boyfriend didn't cook her a nice dinner. It's fine. It just probably hurts. Whatever. It's fine. More footsteps. All of a sudden, my head's spinning. I pass out because I'm too high. I'm too high. I'm not even there for my own murder. And so I wake up and nothing happened, of course. And then so I drink again and I get high again. And, you know, basically I think that the tarot card and Cody are not done fucking with me. So I fall asleep at my friend's house. And then I wake up to 8 missed calls from my roommate. I'm like, oh, did you miss me? No, I called her back and she said, you have to come home right now. The police are here. You just got robbed. Holy fuck. It happened. It finally happened. I'm not crazy. Cody's real. So I rush home. I'm hungover. I look like a bag of dicks. I'm greeted by probably the most beautiful cop I've ever seen in Toronto. Like, they're not usually as good looking as this, but of course on this day they are. I'm looking around thinking, holy fuck, this robber did a number on me. Like, they took my laptop, my shoes that I bought in Serbia. They were precious to me. Some jackets, jewelry. They even ate my ice cream. So the fridge did open. Weird. And then all of a sudden I'm going in around my room and I see another guy. He's fingerprint dusting everything. He stops, looks at me. I'm thinking, oh, fuck. I walk over. The guy's putting fingerprint dust on my vibrator. What? The whole time I'm thinking, are they allowed to dust for pussy prints without a warrant? And that's why we don't have spirit guides, because apparently they can't get along long enough, even with the spreadsheet, to figure out how to stop a goddamn robber. Thanks so much, everybody. Give it up for our next act. Drum roll, please. That's Nabil. Woo!
Hello. Thank you very much, Sarah. Sarah, that was awesome. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed listening to that. I'm just going to jump into it. You know, the thing is that what you discussed made me think about the purpose of life and why are we here? And that's always an interesting question, but that's also a question that I have answered for myself. You know, I'm not a serial killer. I'm not a lawyer, or worse, I'm not a comic, you know. So I have that slightly sorted out, and I do thank my past for it, where I grew up, who I grew up with. So a bit of background about myself. I grew up in Islamabad, and I have really pleasant, hazy memories of Islamabad growing up over there, especially with my neighbor, Mary Jane. How did I get introduced to Mary Jane is a really nice story. So I've just finished high school. I go to university in my hometown. But one of my friends, he goes to university in the States. And there he learns about pot and what is weed. Now, he comes back during the summer and he introduces me to pot, weed for the first time. So I'm this innocent little kid. And my friend goes like, you know what? Weed grows wild in our city. You can just go pick it up from anywhere. So in a day, I go from this innocent child to a full-on drug dealer. I learn how to pick it. I learn how to recognize it, pick it, dry it, smoke it. I mean, think about it. We're in Canada. If I want to go buy weed, it is still more difficult for me to get weed in Canada than it is to just go outside, pick it up, try it, smoke it, and there you go. And in a day, I became a drug dealer. Um, Full on drug dealer. I smoked that the first time. That was the first time I smoked up, and that was quite an experience. I went through, how people go through stages of like acceptance and denial. I went through that as well. I went through I call them the 5 stages of denial. First of all, there was denial of the fact that it works. It doesn't work, well, it's just a plant. How can it do anything? Then there was the denial of me being high. Something has happened. Something is happening to me, but I'm not high. No. This is just me feeling sweet. And keep in mind, we get indicas over there, but back home it's all indicas. So I am like, my face is melting. Um, Other stages of denial that I went through occurred in the future as I went through the denial of the acceptance and then the acceptance of the denial. I came to realize that, yeah, I was pretty big. Like I was gone that day. But I would not have recognized it that day. That was something new. And in the process, I learned quite a bit about myself, my parents, my city, as I learned to recognize what weed is and how it's integrated into our culture. Because my parents used to talk about it as I would be really, really little. The parents, the aunts, uncles would talk about it. And now that I know what they were talking about, the veil of innocence starts to disappear. I start to learn what it is about. I understand why there would be like a huge green area, 2 acres of this plant growing about this high, and then the next day the plant was gone. That's how the city financed itself. Very nice. I learned how to come to terms with the fact that growing up, we lived in a I would have been like 11 or 12, and that was when we moved to Islamabad from France. And in the plot next to us, there were like big plants as well of wheat. And it would get as high as like 30, 35 degrees, and those plants would be baking in the sun. And there was tons of pollen that I have been breathing in of weed since I've been growing up. So I'm like on a permanent chill mood in life, thanks to that. I don't get pollen allergies because I have been baked in pollen and I don't have any of those problems. And overall, I can say that weed has given me the superpower, a great superpower. And that superpower is just to chill the fuck out. Like that's the best superpower that we can give anyone. So yeah, that's me. That's my story. And next, I would like to ask Lexis, I believe, to come on and share her story. Thank you very much.
Woo!
Woohoo! Thank you, Nabil. Hi, my name is Alexis Taylor. Shitty fruit. My mom loves serving shitty fruit at parties, at dinners. I'm talking about grapes that are shriveled with brown stems. I'm talking about bruised bananas. I'm talking about yellow apple chunks. And I'm thinking, where are the fresh berries? Where is the mango? Where are the lychee? It's almost as if she grew up in the Great Depression or like the Dust Bowl, and she was like, this is the only fruit we can get. But that's not true. She was raised in the 50s by a doctor. They could afford pretty fruit. But old people, they don't like waste. My parents like eating expired food for this reason. And, old people, I think they think sometimes that food is tired, but not ready to be retired. They don't want to take their food and shovel it off to the compost home as if old people composted. So I also find that old people love gardening, and I don't really know why that is because they always seem to have bad knees. I don't know if that's from a lifetime of praying or giving head. Who knows? But man, I wish old people would put as much care into their driving as they put into their petunias. Historically, I am an aggressive driver. Well, this one day I was super zen. A friend of mine had asked me to help on her film shoot, and I just got back from vacation and I had a car, so I was going to be a driver for her. And I was in a really good mood. I was relaxed. The film shoot was awesome. Everybody was fun, and it ended at like 4 p.m. early, so that's unheard of. It was so chill. So I'm driving home in my neighborhood. At the time, I lived in Little Portugal. And in that area, it mostly was occupied by short people, old people, and artists who were unemployed, but somehow rich enough to afford natural wines. I don't know. Maybe these artists, maybe they had jobs. Maybe this guy with tats was a social worker. Maybe those girls in flannel were nurses or doctors. Who knows? So I'm driving home, and this is a nice, beautiful street. It's a big trees. There's a YMCA. It's residential. There are families. There's a police station. And along one side of the street are parked cars. And it's a narrow street. So when you drive down this street, sometimes you brake for oncoming traffic. You don't want to hit a parked car. You don't want to hit the other car. And I lived in this area for 10 years, so I knew how to drive down my own street. So I'm chill. And I'm driving home, and I'm pretty close to home. And I'm driving, an oncoming car comes, and I brake a little. I go from like 50 to 40, a few seconds, and I get a beep. I'm like, that's weird. Forget about it. I keep driving. I'm driving. Another car passes. I brake a little. Beep. And I'm thinking, what? So I look in the rearview mirror, and I see it's this like old lady. And she doesn't have like white hair and glasses. She has brown, like a helmet hair. And I don't know what her problem is. Anyway, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to keep driving. So I keep going. Another car passes and she beeps. And I'm like, what the heck is this lady's problem? She looks like a pigeon or a toadstool. She's such a small little runt of a woman. Anyway, so I'm starting to get frustrated, right? Why is she beeping at me? I'm trying to drive safely. I'm trying to look out for the global community. I'm super zen, but she's ruining it. So I keep driving. Oh, I also note that she is driving a beige Buick. Buicks are not back, lady, but whatever. Okay, so I'm driving, and I'm going past the police station, and there's this big transport truck coming. So of course I'm gonna brake a bit, and then she sits on the horn. She's like, "Meh!" And I'm, oh my gosh. Okay. So I drive to the light. I'm the first in line in front of the red light. She's behind me. And I get so mad that I just become like really, really grounded, like really zen, like Gandhi after a big meal. And I think I am just going to talk to her. I'm just going to get out of the car. The light's red. I'm going to get out of the car. I don't know what I'm going to say. Well, let's just talk. So I get out of the car. And I'm walking back. And I see she has this red face. It's like clear that she loves eating like salty, sloppy meat. But anyway, so I'm going to the car, and before I say anything, she says, "What are you doing? You and your dinky car." I'm like, whoa, she insulted my car. And at the time, I was driving a Volkswagen Rabbit, which is a rare car. It's a smaller car, but it's not that small. It's not as small as a Mini Cooper. It's not as small as a smart car or a Jetta or an Elantra or a Sentra. It's basically a sedan, okay? And she insulted my car. So I'm, what the heck? What's going on here? So some things were said. Oh, no, this is what I said. I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, I was trying to drive safely." And she said, "Oh, yeah, you're really safe. Look what you're doing now." And I thought, okay, she's a point. But, I was trying to teach her. Anyway, some things were said. I don't remember what was said. And it ended up with her saying, "You're a bitch." And I said, "Well, you are too." And I went back to my car, and I drove through the intersection, and I went home, and I was basically home. So to this day, I like to think about her, and I like to imagine her every Sunday cooking dinner for her 10 grandchildren and taking care of her husband who's sick. He can't bathe himself. He cannot dress himself. She has to change his Depends after she changes hers. And oh, hey, maybe she also is a foster parent to like cats and dogs. Who knows? So I like to think about this. And I still hope that after our our altercation that she died. I hope she died. I really hope she died soon after that, because I know that all those people would be better off with that bitch dead. I know that the whole world would be better off with that bitch in the compost. My name's Alexis, and up next we have Heidi.
Oh, hey guys, I'm Heidi. Yeah, I'm happy to be here tonight. My plan B was dealing with my personal life, which is just chronically a mess. But I did start dating someone recently, and this someone is practicing ethical non-monogamy. I don't know if any of you guys are into that. I was confused about it for a while. I was like, this seems complicated. Like there's going to be a whole bunch of confusing ground rules. But anyways, turns out in practice, it's actually exactly like monogamy. It's just that you talk about the whole thing where you cheat on each other. So far, things are actually going pretty well. Pretty cool guy. The only thing is, like, anytime I tell one of my friends about it, they're immediately like, oh, girl, that's not going to end well. I had these friends, Kirsten and Jack, who opened up their relationship, and, like, you never need to hear the end of that sentence. Like, nothing good ever happened to Kirsten and Jack after they opened their relationship up. But here's the thing. I'm open-minded, and I've been in a lot of relationships at this point, right? And none of them have ended well. Like, that's never something that happens in this day and age. The difference is that in all my other relationships, they also haven't started or continued well. Like, I found out this one guy was a drug dealer on our second date, and then I stayed with him for 5 more years. So at this point, I'm like, if the end of this relationship is the only part that doesn't go well, I actually kind of think that's like my best accomplishment yet. But that's kind of the thing with me. I have a weird love life. It's confusing from the outside because I really fucking hate dating, but I'm somehow chronically in a relationship. I have what's known as an avoidant attachment style, which is a term that 2 different crowds of people tend to be familiar with. One is giant psychology nerds, and the other is people who are on the internet really into complaining about their ex-boyfriend, Jack. But in short, it means that my parents loved me wrong, and now I fear, like, emotional intimacy, which you would think would make it difficult for me in the dating scene. But it turns out people find that attractive for reasons that I don't understand. I think they, like, see it as a challenge. Like, I'll be like, yeah, I would really like to not get to know anything significant about each other, not get familiar with each other's friends or families, and kind of just ghost out of each other's lives in like 3 to 6 months. And people are like, wow, I love that about you. And look, this is hard for me because I'm bisexual, which means I am working twice as hard as other people to avoid all of my feelings. But I do have to say, I met this one girl who I really liked one time. We were friends for a while before anything happened with us. It was like one of those will we or won't we situations. And I think everyone's been in a situation like this. It's kind of like why they invented substance abuse. Like, I think at some point a couple million years ago, some caveman stomped on a bunch of grapes, and then one of his caveman buddies like came along and accidentally ate some of those grapes, and then they started looking at each other differently. And now every time we start to feel something inside, we've learned we have to go poison ourselves in order to make something happen. But anyways, like I was saying, I met this girl and I'm really into her. And her and I and a group of our mutual friends decide to travel to Rio to celebrate Carnival. And I'm like, okay, this is great. My best strategy is always making sure that nobody has any other option than me. So I figure out a situation where her and I are going to fly down there together. Everyone else is going to be on a separate flight. I pulled a whole bunch of bullshit to orchestrate this. And I'm like, there's no way it can go wrong. So the day comes, we get to the airport. We're sitting in the Terminal 3 lounge waiting to get on the flight. And she just casually opens up this Advil bottle that is just filled to the brim with random pills. And she's like, yeah, I hate flying. And my ex is a doctor who writes me prescriptions for whatever I want. Do you want anything before we take off? And I'm like, look, I'm like trying to impress this girl, right? And my only strategy, the only thing I've ever learned is shoving down every real emotion I feel and just waiting to develop cancer in midlife. So I'm like, yeah, actually, every time I fly, I just also open up my random pill container and take a few things and see what happens. So that's exactly what we do. Down a few glasses of wine, they start calling our flight. We get in line to board. And as we're walking on the plane, I start feeling like really good all of a sudden. Like the flight attendants are greeting us. And I'm like, wow, this is a very nice plane. We get to row 17D, which is like the best row suddenly that I've ever seen in my life. It's just her and I together. I'm like, this is perfect. Everything's going according to plan. They close the doors of the plane. The safety instructions start running. And as the safety instructions are running, I'm like, wow, I'm suddenly like really into the seat belts and oxygen masks. Like this is feeling really good. And then the plane starts rolling and I'm looking around and I'm like, wow, what an experience we're all having together on this flight. Like, I don't know what's different about this flight, but I've never felt this excited to be on an airplane before. And then the wheels of the plane lift off of the ground. And as they're lifting off, this girl turns my head to hers and kisses me. And I'm like, this is the best 10 minutes of my life. Everything is falling into place. So the plane keeps ascending and we get into the sky and kind of level out. And at this point, the booze is starting to hit me alongside whatever else is in my body. And I realize like, oh shit, I don't have a plan for what comes next. So I have like 3 seconds to figure this out in my mind. And I turn to her and I'm like, hey, do you want to take this to the bathroom? And she's like, yeah. So we stand up. We start like pushing our way past all of the toddlers and grandmothers who are like making their quick descent to the airplane bathroom because now the seatbelt sign is off. And we somehow get there first. We close the door. I'm like, this is amazing. This is on. We start passionately making out. My like back is bumping up against the toilet. I'm like, this is the best 10 minutes of my life. My life is peaking right now. And the only kind of problem with this situation is that unbeknownst to us, the other airplane bathroom is out of order. So we're in the bathroom, taking off each other's clothes. No idea at this point how much time is or is not passing. But at some point, we hear this knock on the door. And I'm like, look, forget about it. Don't worry. This is not my first time in an airplane bathroom. I'll have you know. If you just ignore the knocks, they go to the other toilet. And then a few minutes later, we get a louder knock. And I'm like, no, it's cool. Don't worry. Like, keep unbuttoning your pants. Everything's going to work out. And then either 5 minutes or half an hour later, at this point, my memory's getting a little hazy. The door of the bathroom bursts open. We hit it shut, pull all our clothes back on, open the door, and there is just this traumatized flight attendant standing there with this laminated piece of paper, which she hands to us with this look on her face that I think everyone has internalized somewhere around like first or second grade. It's like, oh, you need to feel shame now about what you do. She leads us very, very calmly and confidently back to row 17, sits us back down, and gives us this piece of paper to sit there and think about what we've done. And at this point, I realized like I was peeking on something about half an hour ago, but now all I can feel is the absolute cloudiness of the booze that I downed in the lounge before boarding this flight. So I'm sitting there staring at this piece of paper for a solid like 5 minutes before I realized that the reason it's not making any sense to me is because the entire thing is written in Portuguese. And the only thing I can understand is the title, which they have in both Portuguese and English, which says International Sky Law. And here's the thing. I went all the way through Duolingo learning Portuguese for this trip, okay? Like, I like to do my research before I go anywhere. So I can tell you with total confidence whether or not the man is eating an apple. I can tell you with 100% certainty that the train station is to the left. But nowhere in any of these Duolingo lessons did they go over international sky law. So I'm sitting there staring at this piece of paper, like drafting an angry letter to customer support in my head. And then eventually, this girl turns to me like she is working out something super complex inside of her head. And she goes, I can't read this. I don't know. I think we're in the clear. And she opens her pill container back up. So anyway, that was the last time, that was the first and last time I ever fell in love. We did successfully make it back to the ground eventually. And we consummated our relationship in the airport bathroom like the dignified adults that we are. And it turns out the Portuguese people are a lot more lenient with ground law. Or if they're not, I never got the memo. Thanks so much, guys. I'm Heidi Freeb. And next up, we have Amy.
Hello, my name is Amy. I have been single for the vast majority of COVID, so that's how you know that I'm doing great. But it's okay. I'm not lonely. I have a cat. But I guess that's probably already obvious. I'm also queer. I guess that one's pretty obvious too, but you may be surprised to learn that I'm also a disappointment to my parents. And interestingly, my mom is way more disappointed in my tattoos than my sexuality. She was like, you can be a gay icon at night as long as you're a capitalist icon during the day. So I'm single, I'm on the apps. For me, being queer means that I'm open to dating people of any gender, but I will complain more if they're a man. And swiping on dating apps while queer is a lot like a corporate diversity promise. They claim that everyone's included, but I'm just seeing 90% men here. But I matched with a cute guy. We met up for some park drinks. He asked what I did for work, and I was like, well, I am unemployed. And no, Mom, it's not because of my tattoos. But the last job I had was at a cafe. And he asked me, oh, you used to work at Capitol, right? And I'm pretty confused as to how he knows this. So I'm like, oh, have I served you coffee before? And that's when he informs me that we had gone on a Tinder date 4 years ago. So we are outside, but I can feel the walls just closing in on me. I'm so embarrassed. I'm apologizing, but I'm also trying to rack my brain to remember why there was no second date last time. Clearly, the first date didn't go well because it wasn't exactly memorable. Or maybe that memory is long gone because of the absurd quantity of weed I have smoked since then. And I'm also wondering why he didn't realize that I had not recognized him up to this point, but he did show up 30 minutes late and visibly stoned, so we're both clearly not operating at full capacity here. But this second first date, it was actually going pretty well. A lot has changed in the past 4 years. He definitely got hotter, and I definitely got more mentally ill. So I end up going back to his place. We're hanging out on his patio, and that's when he leans in for a kiss. This was a true Disney moment. I felt like Princess Aurora in Sleeping Beauty, and my prince had finally arrived and had awakened me with a kiss. Specifically, he had awoken my memory, and I realized that this is why there was no second date last time. So we're making out, we're seated, facing knee to knee. This is the worst possible position to make out in. Imagine you're on the 504 King streetcar during rush hour. you're sat in one of those awful 4-seater sections where the seats are just a little bit too close. So you keep accidentally knocking knees with that random accountant that's sat across from you. Now imagine that accountant leans in and gives you a kiss. This is the level of sexiness that we're working with in this situation. But I'm already there. I love doing volunteer work. So I'm like, maybe we can figure this out. But then he immediately goes for the boobs. And I'm really understanding why my local produce market has so many signs asking customers not to squeeze the avocados. Then it gets even worse. He proceeds to reach his hand down the neckline of my Uniqlo Supima cotton t-shirt. He reached his hand down the neckline of my Uniqlo Supima cotton t-shirt. And I'm like, bitch, if you stretch the neckline on this, I will be sending you an invoice. So it's at this point in which I realize I've just got to get the hell out of there. And I'm going to absolutely make sure that there is no third first date. As soon as I remember what his name is. Thanks so much, everybody. My name is Amy Powell. And next up, please welcome Nadia.
That's a hard act to follow. So I love Saturday Night Live. That's my favorite show, especially Pete Davidson. I'm gay, but I have thought about having sex with him multiple times. But you know what? Pete Davidson in the last season of SNL is looking a lot like the staff at Toronto Pearson. Never there when we need them, but at least one of us is securing the bags. Career, this man scored Kim Kardashian, and I have never seen a man whose whole personality is centered around smoking weed be that successful and use it to his advantage. So all I'm saying is he must have a big personality. Because I've tried edibles once, and let me tell you, that shit will fuck you up. So keyword is once. It was my 22nd birthday, and I decided I was going to introduce my hometown friends to the ones I met in university. And you're probably thinking, what's the big deal about that? Well, my hometown is Brampton. We're known for our horrible driving and wannabe Torontonians whipping in the Honda Civics on the way to Tim Hortons every day. But that paints a picture there. They're the type of friends that are asking the motive at 6 a.m. when you're in the backseat changing into your work clothes because you have work at 8 a.m. and there is no regard for human decency when it comes to responsibilities. Then there are my university friends. I went to school for criminology and forensics, so pretty serious shit. I also went in Durham region. So these are the people who are tucked into bed at 8 p.m. at night on a Monday, watching The Bachelor and posting all these colorful infographics about how to make the world a better place on Instagram. Because if you're not tucked into bed at 8 p.m., you are running into local drug addicts at the street corners of Tim Hortons. So two very opposite ends of my group. I am the middle ground. I will gladly stay up to 2 a.m. partying with you. But you also will believe me when I say I am yelling fuck the patriarchy at 2 p.m. the next day when the Salem witch trials are happening again and trying to take our fundamental rights away. So anyway, I was extremely nervous of how this night was going to go and if my friends would like each other. I'm a people pleaser. And I can't tell if it's because I'm an Aquarius or if it's my untreated borderline personality disorder or a mix of both. Probably both, but we digress from that. So one of my friends thought, let's do edibles. And without missing a beat, this man had his app open on his phone. The website had the layout of Amazon with delivery like it was Uber Eats. Like you can get fucked up in less than an hour. Like that's Prime service. Amazon Prime, you know. Anyway, he decided to order like a bunch of different edibles for us to try. And I went with the s'mores one to be safe. Don't ask why, but I thought s'mores was going to be good. So the bar looked like a Kit Kat, and it was breakable in like 4 places as such. And my friend told me, you know, you have to eat one piece out of the 4. And I followed without questioning. Even though I have trust issues, like my dad left when I was 8, you think I'm trusting you with a bar that I have zero idea what the fuck is in it? Okay, let's do it anyway. I said, fuck it. So we do it, we're eating edibles, we get into the Uber, we're going to the club, and our Uber driver was lit. He was playing song requests. Like, I was thinking, this is nothing. These edibles aren't hitting me. I'm dancing with them, singing, whatever. So, well, we get to the club, and immediately as I stepped out of the car, I felt like the floor was moving, and I forgot how to walk. Like, I was in a pool all day and came out like my legs were jelly. But not only that, everything started to become blurry. And I was really about to hit up my optometrist and being like, I know I haven't come for you for a couple years. I don't have insurance, but I can't see shit. So we're hitting you up soon. And then probably about like 30 minutes after that, I can no longer comprehend the English language. And it felt like everyone was speaking in Minion. I can't really do the impression sober. I know everyone was expecting that, but can't do that. Sorry, guys. And I could have sworn I saw the shadow of Jesus Christ himself coming down and was like, look, I forgive you for being gay, but I can't forgive you for texting your professor while you were high saying things you probably shouldn't be saying. And I said, you know what? It's my cue to go home. I'm like, we're going home. So we're in the Uber. My friends are still lit. They're living their best life. And I'm in the corner of the Uber sitting, trying to understand why I'm staring at my body on the outside of me and not attached to me. And I'm thinking, like, when did I look like that? And no wonder I'm single, because I look like that. So we get home, get to my friend's house, and I had absolutely no energy to change or brush my teeth. I just knocked out in whatever bed was available to me. And I had woke up sometime in the middle of the night to complete darkness. And my immediate thought was, oh, fuck, I'm blind. It didn't dawn on me that, when you wake up in the middle of the night, obviously for a little bit, it's going to be dark. And you're going to see black for quite some time. Because that would be the logical thing to do. I paid $40,000 for my degree, and clearly it was useless because I was blind. And I jumped straight into the worst case scenario ever. And then I went through the 5 stages of grief. So first was denial. I thought, no, it's nothing. Everything's fine. Then came anger. I'm like, you mean to tell me that the bitch that bullied me in high school has 20/20 vision, and I'm fucking Stevie Wonder out here? Like, that doesn't make sense. And then, my favorite was the bargaining. I sat up and I prayed to God. I was like, it's me again. I know I don't do this quite often, but let's do a trade-off. You give me my sight back. I'll give you a little bit of the gay experience. You'll like it. You'll really like it. Anyway. And then depression came, but that just felt like a regular Tuesday to me because when am I not depressed? And then acceptance came, and I was like, you know what? If this is my life, I'm going to accept it. It's time for me to call up Dr. Phil and make my appearance of the girl who was blind by edibles because I wanted to get in the bag. So then once I finally came to terms with my new self-diagnosis that I did, I went to go sit up. And apparently I couldn't sit up because sleep paralysis kicked in. And I said, shit, double homicide. So I had both. Eventually, after whatever I did, I was eventually able to move and grab my phone. And I immediately texted my friends saying I was blind. Guys, I can't see anything. I'm literally blind. My car's parked here, but I can't go home. I don't know how I'm going to go home. How do I tell my parents I'm blind because of edibles that they didn't know I was doing? And, they would logically turn around and says, like, Natty, are you sure? Like, it's dark right now. Like, are you sure? We can take you to the doctors. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I'm sure I'm blind, but I don't want to do anything about it. So let me sit in this. And then the next morning, I wake up and magically could see again without any regulation, whatever the word is, and a massive hangover from the night before. And that is the story of how I thought I learned Braille in less than 6 hours. But more importantly, how I found out you're only supposed to have a quarter of an edible. So that's my set. I'm Nadia. I'm supposed to do a closing out, but I won't be as good as Tamara. But this is our class, and hope you guys enjoyed our set. Everyone was really great tonight. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Woohoo! Are we still here? Are we saying goodbye?